Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you guys have heard of the phrase, two wrongs don't make a right? Yeah, most of you guys have. And I think that could apply to the controversial topic in society that a lot of people argue about, like, probably since you were in middle school, you probably wrote in an essay about it, and it is that should children be tried as adults? And my stance would be that they actually should not be tried as adults. And I'm going to give you guys 3 reasons. 1 is because it's a loss of hope for their future. And 2 is because prison is not actually safe, especially for a 13-year-old. And 3 is because they could still be rehabilitated. Like, there's still hope for them. As for going for it's not safe, it's called, like, every day in thousands of prisons, there's kids, I know there's a lot of rapes, fights, and everything. And for an 8-year-old to be in that situation, or a 12-year-old, is just not right. And I read an article on CNN that stated that a 12-year-old shot an 8-year-old girl, but he got the gun from the dad's closet. And although he did go to jail, they gave the son the death sentence. And I also think that bad parenting plays a role into, like, kids, why they're so bad, especially at such a young age. Like, why if the parents were to actually teach them right from wrong, why are they committing crimes? Like, how is it the kids' fault? And as for them being rehabilitated, I think that can happen at any age. If they had those programs at prisons for 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, maybe even 70-year-olds, why can't they just teach a kid since he's small? Referring back to one of the speeches prior, he stated that it's better to learn programming when you're young. Just the same thing, if the kids are young and they're committing crimes, if they teach them right away, they could actually learn right from wrong. So there's still hope, and it's a lot better of them just like getting sentenced to jail. And as for the loss of hope, if you're 12 and you get sentenced in life for prison, maybe even something that wasn't even your fault, if you're going to be in prison forever, like, you get your sentence, like, basically that's basically all your life. Like, you have no reason to live. You're going to be stuck behind a jail cell. Maybe you have a couple of visitors, but to be honest, your parents will probably be dead by the time you're dead in prison. So you're just going to be left alone in there. It's true. So, yeah, unless they live it to 100 years, but it doesn't happen all the time. And as going though, to get back on track, there's like a lot of, like, controversy that goes around that if they're old enough to commit the crime, they're old enough to face the sentence, but that's the purpose of juvenile law, is that they rehabilitate the kids there. That's where they have programs for them. That's where they teach them right or wrong, instead of a jail cell where you're just given food and treated like a dog. But if I'm gonna leave you guys off today, I would want you guys to understand that kids are still kids, and they still have a chance to improve their lives. I mean, the death sentence may be good for a 30-year-old that commits, like, a mass murder, but is it really fair for a 7-year-old that was playing with the gun inside that his dad left the safe unopened, and then he just played with it like he thought it was a Nerf gun? Is that really fair?
Do you have an outline?
No.
Okay. Tristan, some thoughts?
It started off like a little bit rough, like trying to, like, for me, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like trying to understand this topic. And then I finally got around to realizing what he's trying to talk about, the death penalty, for how having a death penalty for kids isn't really isn't right at all, or having kids get put in jail. I'm familiar with the subject because I studied, well, not really studied, but I mean, I had a class on it during high school as an LRP class, and that was one of the topics that I discussed. So I for once knew some about the topic, but it was kind of short, so there wasn't really that much information towards it. Yeah, and he was looking at the ground a couple times here and there. And, yeah.
All right, well, again, we get an audience survey, not necessarily the best way to go. You at least have a clear statement of what your purpose is. There's a little bit of a preview, so there's some structural stuff that is not too problematic. However, the content issues are all over the place. There's no research in this presentation. This is all stuff. You make a reference to CNN and a 12-year-old kid who shot an 8-year-old and got sentenced to death. I don't know what decade that happened in, but it hasn't happened in the last 30 years since the Supreme Court ruled that you can't sentence somebody to death who's a minor. That's, that happened, and that ruling was 30 years ago. So if it happened before then you've got a really old example that doesn't represent what's going on. Otherwise, you've got the information in your presentation wrong. Since you're citing CNN, and CNN it's barely 30 years old, I don't really think that that's where you got that information. That's problematic. The idea that they're sticking 8-year-olds in the prison population with adults, I think that's a misnomer. That's not what happens. I think that there's just a lack of basic understanding about what happens in the juvenile justice system and how these things work. You've expressed your opinion on some of these subjects, but you don't provide any evidence to prove any of these points. So it's not really much of an argument. It's like an impromptu speech passing as a persuasive presentation, and it's not particularly satisfying. I think you do speak effectively to the audience. You project your voice. I didn't notice that you were looking down a lot, but you know what? Maybe that was something that did happen on a regular basis, and I just happened to be looking down myself when you were doing the same thing. All right, thank you.